So good evening and welcome to another of the Green Party of the U.S. Coordinated Campaign Committee webinars. Before we begin, I just want to do a quick introduction. The Coordinated Campaign Committee, by the way, is a working committee of the National Green Party of the United States. There are 10 members who are elected, at least 5 women, or up to 5 women at least. And we do a number of services. We track candidates. We try to offer support by a campaign manual. We offer a monthly webinar, mostly monthly webinars, dealing with all aspects of campaigning as part of a campaign school. We've offered campaign schools and we help with tracking candidates and assist with the database. If you know of any green candidates, forward them our way, forward them their name, forward their do 2 or 3 things at once here, but make sure you let us know about it. And I'm putting 3 things in the chat here. ccc@gp.org is a way to reach us. If you're running for office or you know somebody who wants to, send them our way, ccc@gp.org. Just above that, that's our committee webpage if you want to check out our manual and other resources we offer. And at the very top, the elections is the elections database. All ballot qualified Greens and all office holders that we know of are on there. So my name is Holly Hart, by the way, and I am actually no longer co-chair. I was just replaced with Scott Laubenauer, but he's halfway across the world. And so I am doing the honors of doing this quick overview again. So we just want to mention here, I just want to mention too, for anybody who may be watching and who may be asking the question we're so often asked, why do you only run a presidential candidate every 4 years? You should run more down ticket candidates. Well, actually, that's what we mostly do. And in fact, the Coordinated Campaign Committee is focused on down ticket candidates from the very local to the federal level, but not president. Ballotpedia and our website and social media, check those out. Other things, let's see, we also, if you're running for office, we offer a groups.io group for them. We offer some Greenwave live stream showcases, and we will have some funds. We will offer some campaign grants. They're very small grants, but sometimes to help, if you're a candidate who looks like they might actually win the election or has some notable reason for running, we do try to offer grants. Sometimes some of our identity caucuses have also offered grants to, say, women candidates, Black candidates. However, we don't have a lot of money, and of course, that's not our primary purpose. We want to train people to raise their funds, but we may have some funds coming up. So without further ado, I'm going to, I want to thank Cassandra Lems here tonight. She's one of our volunteers and she is helping with the waiting room and chat. And I would like then to introduce our guest tonight, Michael Georgeson, known as Georgie. Georgie is an artist and designer and a green. He lives in
I have my toothbrush.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't, okay. Michael Georgeson, or Georgie, is an artist and designer. He's a green. He lives in Philadelphia with a dog and cat, and he is a professional graphics artist and designer. So I'm going to let him take it away, and then if there's time, we can have some question and answer. But for now, Georgie, take it away, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, happy to be here. Let me just start sharing my screen here. And sorry in advance if my animals make some noises. Let's see. What is happening? Oh, sorry, I haven't shared my screen in a long time. I have to allow it to do so.
On my screen, there's like 3 dots at the bottom, and you have to.
Yeah. Share screen.
Can make you host. I wonder if that will make host. I'll try that.
I have to, it's like I have to give permission to it through my computer. It's not that, it's like the accessibility or something. Sorry. What?
Let's mention that Georgie did this a couple of years ago, and it was well received, and so we thought this would be a good and a particularly good time to do this again, because this is something that a lot of candidates find challenging.
Huh.
Well, I don't know if this would be the same slide deck, but I believe I have a slide deck that you could use last time.
Okay, let me see if I think I might have it now. Actually, yeah, if you have it, that might be the best thing to do. Sorry. Okay, designing campaign literature. No, wait a minute, I don't want that part of it. Slide deck. Okay. Okay, I've got this. You want me to go ahead and share my screen then? And you Yes,
can just
please.
tell me when you want me to run a, okay.
Yeah, this is my work laptop and it has different like security permissions, I guess.
Okay. Okay, so let's see.
Cool, looks good. I don't know. What if you click on view only? I don't know if that makes it the big sort of towards the left.
Wait, what are you looking at here? View only?
Yeah, there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Oh wait, never mind. Try slideshow up next to that little Dracula face on the right.
Oh, got it. Okay,
There we go.
there you go. Okay, go ahead.
Still load. It still says loading for me.
Okay. It says it's paused. And yet. I'm going to start over again.
Okay. It's gonna be good once we get in there.
That's not what I wanted. Okay, I'll try this again here. Okay, and I'm just gonna. No, one more time here. Let's see if this works. If not, I think I'll share the screen, but it will only be, okay, it's not gonna let me do this. So what I'm gonna do instead is just to show the slide deck, so it won't be as nice of a full screen that people will be able to see the slide decks. Will that work? It's not as
Yeah.
fancy, but I think people will see. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's fine. Okay, so like we said, my name is Michael Georgeson. You can call me Georgie, and we'll be talking about designing campaign literature. Oh my God, sorry. My dog is just going for the squeaky toys right now that I'm talking. Hey, come here. Just come sit still. Anyway, you can go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about why does design matter. You can go to the next one. So design is kind of a way of arranging words and ideas and making it look right, so people are going to want to read it and help people understand what your message is that you're trying to get across. So it's important to spend time thinking about it, and good design will add professionalism, clarity, appeal, and kind of an additional layer of communication to just having words on a page. You can go to the next one. So the first thing is logos. A logo is a symbol. Come here. I'm sorry about him. A logo is a symbol used by an organization to identify itself on products, uniforms, advertising. Logos are unique, simple, and memorable. And we're going to talk about brand identity a little bit later, but the main part of that is a logo. So here's a couple of familiar ones. They are sometimes just a symbol, words arranged around a symbol, or just words, like just words in a kind of stylized way. You can go to the next one. So here's a couple examples. As you can see, there's often variations, like the Wendy's one. It'll have Wendy's and the face, or just the face, or two different arrangements of those elements, like stacked vertically or side by side. And then LinkedIn has like different colors you can use for, if I'm printing it on black or on blue or what have you. Go ahead and go to the next one. So when you're designing a logo, you want to think about, it has to be very clear and simple and straightforward. So think about as few words as possible, 2 fonts at the most, really simplified images, and putting emphasis in a place to establish what's called hierarchy. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later too. And you should design it so that it can be legible in one color. A lot of times you'll want to print your logo most of the time in 2 colors, but for efficiency and economy of printing, want to make sure that it's still clear in just one color. Okay. So fonts, like I said here, it's kind of like an outfit for the letters. When you're designing a logo, you want to have just 1 or 2 fonts. You want to be consistent, not have too many elements, and that way you'll establish a brand that can be recognized across time. So just like an outfit, every font communicates something different about the words they're being worn by. You can look at a couple different examples down at the bottom of different fonts and what they kind of add to the word. You can go to the next one. So when you're making a logo and you want to include imagery, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Like, it shouldn't be a photograph like on the left. It should be clear even when it's viewed very small. And like I said earlier, it should make sense in just one color. I like to think, when I'm designing a logo, I like to think about it working even if it's just like spray painted through a stencil, just like really clear, clear and concise, easy to take it in. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So here are some logos from, I think these are all 2016 logos and what they kind of imply about the candidate. So on the top left, we've got Bernie, and that sort of has like a reliable and friendly vibe to it. No, hey, stop. So like you can see it has these sort of blocky letters, but there's also curves to them. And the blockiness has the sort of a sturdiness, like a reliability, like I said, but then the curves sort of soften it and give it a friendliness. Rand Paul, it has these, it's in italics, so the letters are leaning forward. So it sort of has like an action, a momentum. And then that like Statue of Liberty torch sort of implies liberty. implies, I say. But like, and then the Hillary Clinton one, obviously it's bold font, it's heavy, and it has that arrow built into it, so it's meant to imply like we're moving forward and being very impactful. And the Trump one just has like it's actually pretty it's a pretty dull one, but it just sort of says, you know, like it's in this box, so it's sort of like this brick, like a building block. It's sturdy and strong, and nothing too crazy, which is maybe not what that logo should have looked like. Go ahead to the next ones. Hey, come here. Sorry, I should have cleared up all these squeaky toys before I started. He only wants to play when I'm in a Zoom meeting. Okay, sorry. Go to the next one. So after we have a logo, we can use that as the first building block to developing the whole brand. So a brand is the perceived image of an organization or a campaign or whatever. And it's so the logo is the basis for this identity, and the logo serves as sort of the main calling card, the fastest way to identify the brand. But the brand identity itself is made up of more visual aspects. So it's got the logo, and then it'll have the colors you use, the fonts, and then other, you know, kind of accent items. Next slide, please. So what you need to think about for developing the whole identity is fonts that you need to use, photos, and information, and how to like what information you want to include and how you're going to arrange it. Next slide. So gonna want to, you can, usually I like to keep just like 1 or 2 fonts and just use those, but you can go up to 3 if you need to. Like maybe you've got 2 fonts in your logo and then you want a more simplified, a more simple, easy to read font that's better for large blocks of text instead of a more display font like you would use in your logo. Next, please. So a lot of times you're going to want to use a photo. Sometimes it's not a place for a photo, and sometimes it will. But it's a good way to help people get to know you. So you want to think about what will make a good photo. Obviously, a lot of times there's just like sort of a straight on headshot, but other things are like, talking to a crowd with their family, serving the community, like doing an action item, something that kind of gives a little bit more personality instead of just, kind of a straight on headshot. I would not include a photo on a t-shirt, a business card, or a sign, but I would on like postcards, posters, and brochures. Just kind of depends on each piece. What you're going to include different information on each piece is kind of the guidance I would give. Go ahead and go to the next one. So when choosing a photo, in addition to sort of making sure that it's adding to the message and the personality, like maybe doing an action, you want to make sure that it's not blurry. A lot of times a photo will look nice on a screen, but won't reproduce well in print because it's too small. There's a thing called DPI, which means dots per inch. And in print, for something to look correct, it needs to be 300 dots per inch, but on a screen, it only needs to be 72. So you need to make sure you have a large enough image file size, and test it out when you're printing, or just make sure it doesn't look blurry. You can go to the next one. So here's a little breakdown on what I think, or what I would personally include on different pieces. Generally, I think that you want to put as little as possible on there to get the point across. People, especially nowadays, are not big on reading, and the attention spans are just getting shorter. So try to keep it clear and concise and not overly verbose. Things like t-shirts, business cards, posters, flyers, these things should have kind of more limited content. On a t-shirt, I would put, on the front, probably the logo, the slogan, and then maybe a website on the back. But maybe not even a website. Like you should ideally be able, someone should be able to just have the name and Google it and find what they need to find. Business card, I would do logo, website, slogan, and then you can add email address, social media sites, stuff like that. Poster, I would have, and this is where I would add in a photo, and then kind of the same information as before, and then maybe a few key points like key key elements of the campaign or main things that you want people to take away. And then on a flyer, you would have kind of the same stuff as on the poster, but what is the event and where and when is it? You can go to the next one. So this is always a struggle. People, whenever I've designed campaign materials, people always want add more. So, obviously if you're running, you've got a lot to say and we want to hear it, but there's definitely a time and place. No one wants to read through a whole novel just to like kind of get the essence. You got to cut to the chase and keep it brief and give people a way to find more after you've reeled them in with kind of the more limited information. So then when you get to your website, postcards, brochures, you can use these materials to kind of get in and get longer paragraphs and really dig into what your campaign is all about. Next, please. So now I mentioned hierarchy before, but hierarchy is how a designer will think about arranging the information. Essentially it's saying what's the most important thing, and that should be the biggest. Like if you can only get one, if you're only going to remember one thing from this poster or whatever it is, that's going to be the biggest. So there's a link there. You can read a little bit more about it, and we can share the presentation as well. So you can check that out. But if you go to the next slide. So this graphic kind of explains using hierarchy. So it just says, you're going to read that first big title first, and then that next line, and down, sort of drilling down into the deeper part of the information, into getting into the body of it. We can go next. So this is a logo I designed a few years back for a campaign, Olivia Faison for City Council. So I chose kind of a heavier font, but this font is still, when heavy, it still has like a round friendliness to it. So I wanted like a heavy sort of ground up kind of feeling to it, and then adding the leaf details to the eyes to sort of bring in to continue to soften it and highlight part of our green way of life, is the environmentalism. And then if you go to the next one. So here's how I've taken that logo and evolved it into a postcard. So this is one where I kind of went back and forth with Olivia. I was trying to recommend having a little bit less stuff on there, but I think we had a good compromise where the front has just like the 4 key points, and then if you want more, you can check out the back. But if you'll see on the back, I have that little leaf icon in the lines. So that's kind of part of what I mean about taking a visual element from the logo and repeating it, so it just sort of makes everything look like it goes together. You know, the next one, and then the next one. So let's talk about printing things. The most standard type of printing that people are familiar with is called 4-color process, or CMYK. If you have a printer at home, that's 99.9% probably what you have. CMYK stands for cyan, which is a type of blue, magenta, yellow, and black. And then all of these colors are mixed together to print all the colors in your design. A good way to to save money on printing is to print one color. From a standard print shop, that means printing black on either white or colored paper. A lot of times for green stuff, we'll print like black on green paper. So it's a cheap way to get a pop of color to draw the eye, but without spending a ton of money. Excuse me. Other things like silk screening, which is for t-shirts, vinyl banners, and stuff like that. You can get one or more colors, but any color you want. Instead of just having to do black, you could do like white on a black shirt, green on yellow, whatever. So there's a lot of options there. Next one, please. So different file types, and these are sort of the extension at the end of the file that you've seen, are for different uses. So files like JPEGs and PNGs are for screen viewing, and PDFs are for printing. Your printer is going to want the PDF file most of the time. We can go to the next one and the next one. So here's some resources. The industry standard for design software is Adobe Creative Suite, but it's very expensive. That's what I use for my job, but a lot of people I know have been getting into Canva, and that's, I think, is free. And then there are some other design softwares listed there. And then on the right, there's a website, Power of the Poster, that has a lot of it's just a good place to look for design inspiration. It's got a bunch of different posters about different issues. Yeah, and I guess that's pretty much it. I think I might have gone pretty fast through that, but let me know if there's any questions.
I'm going to stop the screen share, and I think Cassandra and I are monitoring the chat. I think that people can either use the raise hands or post something in the chat. And I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna post in the chat here. This is a Google Doc with the slideshow.
Yeah, that's fine. And here I'm putting in my email address in case
Okay.
questions come up later.
Okay. I have a question. Okay, so I had one question. Now I'm going to thinking what I. Oh, it had to do with the website, and you mentioned people should be able to Google things and get to the website. But I'm finding now, I know this has become. I see one. I'll see several hands up there. So we'll get to that. I just wanted to ask the website that the way that Google and other commercial search engines are working recently, especially with phones, you find that you try to Google something and you get Yelp and a bunch of other crap before you get to it. So people should just be aware of that. I realize you were looking for a t-shirt logo, putting the website on a t-shirt, but I just wanted to mention that because people are, it is becoming increasingly annoying. So to try to do that.
That's true.
I see I have Gloria and Lizzie after that, and I'm going to open up the gallery, so make sure we get all those. But Gloria, go ahead. I'm asking that you can unmute.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if we were muted by you or by ourselves. No, I want to thank you for this. I watched I participated in the first one you had done, and still learned more.
Oh, good.
Not, it doesn't come natural to me, so it's good to kind of have that, and I'm glad we have that. And I guess one question, not more so on the tech end, because I'm really, and I did in most of my campaigns try to respect my graphic designer and what they said couldn't happen. And so what is that like working with candidates? I heard you say a little bit of do a little bit of a compromise with Olivia, but that really kind of, have you ever had those situations where you just gave in and let the candidate have all the bells and whistles and words and things like that they wanted, and then they kind of looked at it and was like, oh, now I see what you're talking about?
Yeah, I usually, and not just with, political stuff, with all the people I work with, it's usually, sometimes they'll have an idea in their head, but it's not, once you get it onto the paper, it's not quite working out. Usually if I'm trying to demonstrate or trying to explain why I think something won't necessarily be a good idea, I'll try to make that version and then make kind of my suggestion and say, you can take your pick, because ultimately it's their campaign, and I want to give them what they want. But I do try to, make a recommendation for what I think would be the best move.
Mhm. Thanks.
I see Lizzie next. I'll ask you to unmute. I don't know who's muting and who isn't, but anyway, I'll ask you. You should be, yeah, you should unmute. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, that's really great. I think it's so important. You think that you're looking at something on the screen and it's one way, but then you print it. I remember it wasn't for a campaign, but it was against a constitutional amendment, a statewide constitutional amendment. We were working with another group, and they just insisted on putting so much information on the back that, I mean, I'm an older person, so you cannot read like size 6 or 7 font. It was just a little too much. But I just had a real simple question. Sometimes you have a photograph that really doesn't meet the standard, but it's like the perfect one. Is there a method to increase the pixels?
Not
the
really.
DPI?
Yeah, not like Photoshop and stuff can sharpen images a little bit, but not really very much. Like, I know in crime shows they're always like, oh, let me enhance, but that you can't. Like the camera is only, you can't retroactively have the camera have gotten more information, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it's kind of what you have is what you get. But a lot of times, I mean, depending on what, like if it's a picture that you've gotten from the internet, you can do a reverse image search and find a bigger version of it on Google. It's like, if you go to Google and then there's like a little camera icon, you can drag the picture in there. And sometimes there's a bigger version of it if it's not a picture that you've taken yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? You mentioned a couple places, and again, this is on the slideshow or the slide deck at the very end, because I think one interesting thing for me is to know where to find reasonably priced products and work. I know where I live, there was not a union printer in town. There was somebody who claimed to be, but they weren't. But we did have local printers, and we made a big deal of local printers and printers who were actually supporting us. And so we would say, printed locally or labor donated. I would mention too, and when you're having campaign literature printed, and make sure you check the elections laws, FEC laws, or laws in your state, that you on most literature you've got to have the name of your campaign. Paid for by, or Georgeson for president or whatever. So
no thanks.
Well, I could think of less good options. But that's something to be aware of. But again, having that is useful. We found that there were a couple places that, even though they weren't union, and we found some places out of town that we could send for union print jobs. But sometimes it's also, if you can have the union bug, it's a good thing. If that's an option. I think in most places it is. My place might not have been usual, but it does happen. Leslie says, if you can't find a union, it's good to look for a Black-owned business or woman-owned or immigrant too. That's another thing too, if you have that option. But any other questions? What have those of you who have run for office? I know Sherry Wells have. Gloria says there are also more worker co-op print shops. That's true too. Yeah, if you have those there, that's a good option. I know Shara, I don't know, Kristen, I don't know if you've run for office. Others of you, Lizzie, I know Gloria has. Sherry, do you have any experiences to share?
My best words, and I've offered our candidates to use them too, is when I was running for state rep, I will listen to you, I will learn from you, I will legislate for you. So it has you in there, but it also has the listen, an unusual factor, and learning and legislate. And I like alliteration, and so that I think you can't find anything better than that to tell people why you're running. But listening to them, I had one time when I was running for mayor locally, and I came up to this guy who was on his front steps, and I said, I'm Sherry Wells, I'm running for mayor. What would you like me to know? And he pointed to the other chair on top of the steps and said, have a seat.
That's great.
What else? Any other thoughts that occur to you in the last couple of years? Have you noticed a decline in certain kinds of materials in use, increase of certain things, or any further advice or things that you might be recommending now? Or has anything not really changed?
I wouldn't say I've noticed too much of a change. I think probably the like postcard is still kind of the king. In Philly, we just had a pretty big mayoral primary, so I was getting a lot of postcards and like of various sizes every day, but I think that seems to be kind of the main thing. But you know, postcards and probably posters for windows are probably two of the biggest things that I see. But I also think it's always good to have, you know, just a smaller size card you can hand out when you're out and about.
So a business card size doesn't necessarily just look cheap. It's actually handy.
I mean, there might be you might want to, I don't know, check with someone more into the strategy game. But I mean, I think if you have a business card that's properly designed, it doesn't have too much stuff on it, then I think that can be helpful. I think a lot of times people want to like put their picture and put kind of too much on the business card, and I think keeping it a little bit more concise can look nice. But you could even have a slightly bigger card, maybe like a 4x6 card or whatever that you pass out as well, kind of a slightly one of the smaller postcard sizes. And I think that's good too.
Okay, thanks.
I'm seeing two questions. Gloria, I see your hand, and Lizzie has written here, besides being the wind beneath the wings, what paper do you recommend for these different pieces? That's a good question, actually.
Definitely want to go, you know, kind of heavier. I can't think of like the weight off the top of my head that I would go with, but you don't need to invest in something that's like necessarily too heavy, but it needs to, you know, not, you know, you want something sort of in the middle, and then you can kind of go by how you feel about it. Like, I think I would recommend maybe doing something with recycled paper, especially for a green. I think that's like a nice touch that you can add. You know, something on the, you know, that you're doing something ecological even in the printing process. And then you can kind of decide for yourself if you want it to be glossy or matte, like what you think fits your vibe.
Thanks. Gloria, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I moved from the trifold, which was kind of the thing, to the postcard. I mean, they're just so much easier to give out. I think for candidates, and you know, I could have to include myself. It's been a while, but it's hard to make that leap to say you want something that's really attractive and eye-getting, but you like the compelling feeling. I think that's a green, you know, on greens to those, like, to put all the bits of information you can, right? And so if you make a decision that, like, here's your card, it's 4x6, and you know, I think some of us need like that concrete, you know, we're gonna have X amount of white space, right? So then okay, so eliminate that. We have, what are the essential things, like your website, your photo, those kinds of things. And like, so it doesn't leave much for a lot of things to say. Also want to ask you about door knockers. I mean, do you think that they're, you know, I think I hear our Greens Upstate more doing that, but, you know, wonder if those are pretty effective. I mean, they're people do much door knocking. I guess like what I was thinking too is, are we giving as much literature as we used to? You know, I remember my first campaign, there was, you know, it was an army of volunteers that were doing lit drops every week in different neighborhoods, right? That's a lot of paper, you know, there was thousands and thousands of pieces of paper in my house that were getting dropped in, you know, in people's doorways or porches.
Yeah, I definitely I think that there can be too much stuff. I think those like door hanger things are cool and useful and kind of stand out in a different way, but I'm not really sure what is the most effective method or most effective format. So I'm not really sure what works the best, but I definitely agree with you that I think the postcard is better than the trifold brochure. I think it's a little bit more sleek, I guess, sleek and modern, and kind of easier to just have a stack of them and hand them out, and they don't get as like bent and messed up.
Thanks.
I put myself on the stack just because I've had an ongoing question. So we've had people here do the door hangers and stuff, and something called cowboy cards. And I want to know why they're called cowboy cards. I mean, it just seems like a big postcard, but do you have any idea?
I haven't heard that term before. It's just like a really big card.
Well, they almost look like a door hanger, but they're more like a one sheet. There may be a trifold size or a little larger, or like a triple size postcard. You know, like the oblong, kind of like the, you know, just like and they call them cowboy cards. I don't know, and so they got the same amount of stuff as you'd have like on just a card, or probably trifold or postcard. But I've always asked, and nobody could ever tell me why they're called cowboy cards.
Maybe it's like a everything's bigger in Texas type thing.
maybe I don't know. I thought there must be something but they did seem, if you want something a little larger but still a one piece, not a fold over, they do work well. And I guess they look mostly like the door hangers to me. They're very similar in size, that we just without the door hanging part.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen those before.
There's probably another name for them that, you know, adds, and usually kind of glossy cardboard or construction kind of stuff. But any other questions or comments? We're actually not even an hour into this, but it seems like it seemed like a good program and efficient. And again, I put in the I'll say Mary Grissom. Thank you, Mary, for joining us. So thank you. And I was going to ask where you're from or if you have any further questions, but if you have to go, if you have a chance, ask. If not, thank you for joining us. We do have, I put in the chat the slide deck. And then if you go to our website, which is also in the chat, you'll find a click of something that says webinars, and you can look and find all of our webinars. And then there are also things like the campaign manual and other odds and ends stuff. And so this one, we have the original recording of the webinar with the same slide deck too. So now we'll have a couple of these. But,
Actually, I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know this is your professional, your profession. Do you have the availability, and do you put yourself out there for Greens to hire you to, when they're running campaigns? I mean, I'm sure maybe you do some help in Philly.
I have, yeah, it just kind of depends on what I've got going on at the time and if I'm available. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me with that email address I put in there with questions or advice or anything. And maybe, you know, if I'm free, I'd be happy to help.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes, we can. That's one thing that websites are the things that candidates seem to indicate they want the most help with. So this would be really useful. So is there anything else? Anybody want to chat about anything else, or we'll plan for the next webinar? I will mention the next webinar. I should have given a plug for this, but it's going to be, and I see Mary, you have a hand up too, but the next webinar will be in June. If you signed up for this, you will be automatically included in our webinar list, so you'll get the information about that. But that's going to be, I think, a green wave. So there'll be several candidates featured on that, people who will be running in the fall. So you'll see that too. Mary, go ahead, and you can unmute here, Mary.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I don't do much campaign literature, but I was assuming that some of this would be transferable to Green Party brochures, like, little handouts on the 10 key values or what we're doing with our local. But it is different, I would think. I mean, I think all of this is going to apply, but I'm guessing more words I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about stuff that's not campaign literature?
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff I said kind of applies to most design. But like, I know on I think it's like the GPUS website, there's like those brochures you can download and update, but it's kind of, I've done one for the Philly Greens, and I feel like it's a lot of the same kind of information. It's kind of more, you're going to be a little bit more generalized because, like you said, it's not campaign specific, but you could talk about like when and where you meet, or you've got your social media stuff on there, pictures of local goings on, different events with Greens, maybe working with the community, the 10 key values, it's just kind of just different information on there, but kind of a lot of the same principles.
Thank you. Well, thanks again, Georgie. This is a really, really nice presentation, and as you can tell from being an artist, it's very nicely presented with nice panels. So thank you. Thanks a lot, and good wishes. One final question, maybe or not, but it looks like there are a couple candidates that either were recently running or are running right now in Pennsylvania.
I think so. I'm a little bit out of the loop at the moment. But yeah, I think we've got a few people in the works.
Okay. And Sherry puts in something about cowboy cards here, so I'm gonna campaign pop whatever. Anyway, so if anyone is interested in getting these resources, we'll have them. You can just email ccc@gp.org with any CCC related questions, and we'll find the emails and the resources we have here. Otherwise, unless there's anything else pressing, I think we can thank Georgie again, and thank you all for coming and for your comments and questions, and see you next month, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks, Georgie. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.